A dramatic peace deal has apparently been struck, and families of loved ones who have been held hostage in Gaza for 2 years now celebrated the news that President Trump had helped secure their freedom. And joining me to discuss the peace deal, where we go from here, and everything related to it, CBN's Gary Lane. Gary, thanks for being here.
Glad to be with you, Dan. It's been a busy 2 days here in the newsroom.
Yeah, absolutely. And what we're looking at now is footage of this is when President Trump is on the phone there and he directly talks to some of these family members of hostages. 2 years is just incredible that it's actually been that long. It's really hard to wrap your mind around that. But tell me about this deal, Gary. I mean, again, we're dealing with terrorists here. What do we know about this deal? How much can we trust that they're going to hold up their end of the bargain?
Well, Dan, it's just the first phase. I've got to stress this is phase one
Hmm.
of a 20-point plan that Trump has put forward. And the first phase includes, I guess the first point would be the release on Monday, that's when they're expecting it, of 48 Israeli hostages. And actually, only about 20 of them are believed to be alive. So you're talking about 28 bodies and 28 actual people. And as you remember, Dan, last time that people were released, they were very emaciated. So we don't know what condition these living hostages will be in, but they've been down in tunnels and being hidden for 2 years now. I can't imagine what life would be like in a tunnel for 2 years with very little food, without knowing how your loved ones are, what's happening, if you're going to get out, if you're going to survive. But they're getting 48 hostages, and then in return, what does Hamas get on that first point? Well, they are going to get 250 current prisoners who have attacked Israelis and have life sentences. These are terrorists that Israel is going to release to Hamas, 250 of them currently on death row. And then, in addition to that, over the next 42 days, they will be phasing in the release of 1,700 other prisoners, people who were taken captive for various reasons, but fighting or opposing the Israelis in Gaza, 1,700 of them. So that's a small militia that they are going to be releasing, that Israel is going to be releasing. That's just one point of it. The other points, of course, immediate ceasefire, stop the fighting, military activity. The Israelis will pull back to a yellow line, not completely from Gaza. That will be negotiated in the other phases. And then in addition to that, humanitarian aid will be allowed in through the Rafah crossing, which is down near Egypt, both ways, in and out. And then some Palestinians will be allowed to return to Gaza, especially into the northern areas of Gaza. So that's just phase one. There's no addressing the issue of arms, turning over rockets and rifles and so forth. Also, the role of Hamas in a future government. That's very important as well.
Yeah, and it was brought up. I saw this by somebody like a week or two ago. Ahead of this deal, as Trump and his team were trying to negotiate something here, and it kind of dawned on me that yeah, that makes sense given all the headlines we've seen in the last few weeks, which was you're not dealing with. I mean, you're already dealing with terrorists, right? So you got a bit of crazy there, number one, but number two, you are not dealing with the A team. You're not dealing with the B team. You're not dealing with the C team. Why? Because they've all been neutralized. Israel has taken out most of the top leadership of Hamas, of these terrorist networks. Who is shuffling up here to do these negotiations? Probably people that have absolutely no idea what they're doing, what their plan is. And so this is very interesting kind of ground we're on here on that front, Gary. I mean, do you agree with that assessment? And what do you kind of see happening here as we go forward? I mean, you can't trust Hamas as far as you can throw them.
No, you can't. And you've made a good point there. Who are they dealing with? The negotiations in Sharm el Sheikh, Egypt. Notice we haven't seen any video. Have we seen any video of them sitting around a table
I have
negotiating?
not.
Yeah, we don't know who they're negotiating with. It seems like it's mostly power brokers like Qatar and Turkey Erdogan and the Qataris are the ones who are basically calling the shots here. The Egyptians have some influence as well because they're right on the border of Gaza. Yeah, good point, Dan. Who are they really dealing with? Nobody's left in the senior leadership to deal with. So I'm sure if these are very junior members of Hamas, they're very young probably, and they're also they want to live. They probably do not want to die. They're still very anti-Israel, but they don't want to die. So that's a good point that you've made there. Now, that said, can you trust them? Well, I think the key in this is the same as it was with Yasser Arafat and the PLO when he negotiated the Oslo Agreement with Israel, and that was led by President Clinton back in 1993. Did he renounce terrorism? Did he renounce the Palestinian Charter, which called for the destruction of Israel? No, he did not. Will we see Hamas say, look, we're going to lay down our arms, but not all of them. We're going to keep some of them because we're going to continue this fight against Israel, right? Or are they going to say we renounce the Palestinian Charter and we will recognize Israel's right to exist? That's not going to happen. I don't believe that is ever going to happen because they want all of Israel. They want the whole territory free of Jews and them in control. And they will not give up on that. It's centuries old. That's what I discussed this week on the Global Lane.
Yeah, and when you look at their stated goals and their charter, of course, like this would be a core change for them to not want to wipe Israel off the map. And remember, what was Israel's stated goal when they started this incursion 2 years ago after October 7th, which was to wipe out Hamas. They were like, we cannot coexist with them. They clearly just want to keep killing us. We need to wipe them out. Is this the end of Hamas?
I don't believe it is because Israel would have to continue the fight. They would to the very last man. And it seems like with this phase one, that they're pulling back a little bit to a yellow line, and they're not going to continue that fight. They're going to stop fighting, at least for the time being. Will they resume fighting? Well, it all depends on Hamas. It depends on the pressure that the Qataris and the Turks put on them and the Egyptians, other Arabs, other Arab states. But they're living for another day. They're living to fight for another day. And I don't, there may be a temporary peace, but you and I know how all of this is going to end. There will be even greater evil ahead.
Yeah, it sure seems that way given, like we said, all of their stated goals and things of that nature. Let's talk about the media and all of this, and maybe even just some prominent individuals, Gary, who have been all along, they've been kind of pushing and saying, hey, we need peace now. This was, when even from the beginning, when it was very clear that Israel had to do something after this atrocious attack by Hamas into Israel that we saw on October 7th. And so what you had were a lot of these people out there saying we need a ceasefire almost immediately, which was ridiculous at that time. But, over the months and years, you'd see these celebrities and people kind of cry out, we need this peace deal here. Well, here comes President Trump, and he's, by all accounts, it looks like you said, at least temporarily, he has achieved at least some sort of agreement here, especially to get the hostages home, which is what people have been saying since day one. We need to get all these hostages home, and we shouldn't even be talking to you or anything until those hostages are home. President Trump has facilitated this. I don't see a lot of praise coming from other than President Trump's supporters who, already kind of like a lot of his policies, and so that's to be expected. But this is one of those things, and like him or not like him, President Trump has done a very good job on the global stage when it comes to negotiating and dealing with all of the global affairs that are going on and the conflicts with Ukraine and Russia. He's tried to bring Putin to the table. Putin has kind of double-crossed him, and so now he's working through that situation, and I think he's handling that about as well as you can. And then with this, he appears to have potentially ended this conflict. You'd think there'd be more, there'd be at least more credit being given.
Well, even the opposition leader in Israel, the Labor Party leader, called on the Nobel Committee to award Trump a peace prize for this. And then the Israelis are elated, obviously, on both sides of the aisle, left and right. And then you look at the Palestinians themselves. In Gaza, there were Palestinians celebrating and praising Trump, shouting Trump, Trump, Trump. They're happy to see an end to this war because they've suffered terribly as well at the hands of Hamas. Everyone blames Israel, but Hamas brought this on them, and yeah, you've got a good point there, Dan. It's okay. This man has now. This is probably what, the eighth country or region where he has settled a dispute and ended wars. And this is a big one. He's only really got one left, and that's Ukraine. That's probably the hardest one. But this is amazing. Will he get credit for it? Probably not, because there's a lot of Trump derangement syndrome, not only here in the United States, but around the world. And you've got to remember that Nobel Committee is very liberal. So we'll see if enough pressure is put on them to give him a peace prize. But yeah, we're not seeing a lot of parades and a lot of rah rah Trump. Boy, how great is Trump as a peacemaker. But you know what, Dan? One thing you cannot deny, he is a deal maker. Now, the proof will be in the pudding. We'll see what kind of deal this turns out to be, if it will be a lasting peace.
All right, Gary, tell me about what you have coming up this week on the Global Lane.
Well, coming up on the global lane, of course, we're talking about this peace deal, this phase one of the Gaza peace deal. And I talked to Ken Abramowitz. And Ken Abramowitz is an author. He wrote a book called The Multi-Front War. He's also the head and founder of an organization called Save the West, very pro-Israel. But he weighs in and he says, look, you really can't trust Hamas to abide by this because he calls them a death cult. And he believes that they will come to an end just like any death cult does. He mentions the Japanese in World War II. Remember the kamikazes who ran into our ships in World War II? We weren't alive then, but we know our history. He called them a death cult. And then he said the Nazis were a death cult as well, killing 6 million Jews. Then he mentions ISIS. He mentions Al Qaeda and how we fought against them and we ended the caliphate with the help of the Kurds in Syria. And he calls Hamas a death cult. He believes they will eventually come to an end, but what you have to do is resist them and meet them with force. He is skeptical about this peace deal because he thinks it's making too many concessions, maybe. So we'll have to wait and see. And then we also talk about a crisis in Darfur, Sudan, where you have 260,000 people, refugees or internally displaced, that are starving. They're being abused. Some of the women are being raped by the rebel group there that is controlling the area. And there's a call for international help for them to get them out of there and get them the relief they need. And then in addition to that, we talk about the loneliest generation, Gen Z, and how 1/3 of them are saying that they are lonely and also that they don't feel like they have any purpose. So what is the hope for them? The hope is Jesus Christ. And we're seeing revival break out. As you know, Dan, we've reported this extensively on college campuses and elsewhere across the country. So that's the main, those are the segments I have on the Global Lane tonight. It's on at 8 p.m. Eastern.
All right, everybody, make sure you're checking that out. Always very informative content there on the Global Lane, and the host right here joining us, Gary Lane. Appreciate you as always, sir.
Thank you, Dan. Appreciate you too. God bless.